Hello, this is 52 Weeks of Design Live, and today I am inviting the host with the most. Okay, actually, I'm gonna me how he likes his last name pronounced. Hello there.
Hey, how are you?
I'm so good. I am so happy to see you.
Very nice to see you. Are you in the city?
I am in the city. You?
I just got back this morning.
Oh, look at your beautiful surroundings.
Well, thank you. You know about that. We were unveiling a Christmas tree down in Charleston. And our look for 2021 Christmas.
And what did it look like?
Ice.
What was that look?
It was all ice. It was icicles and snowflakes, and we used a lot of flocking. A lot.
Before I grill you, how do you like to pronounce your last name?
Wyck. Well, listen, I don't care how people pronounce it as long as they are calling.
Right.
But it's Wyck. It rhymes with hike, pike,
Okay. Bike.
bike.
You went straight for Truman. You missed transportation. No, Ike Eisenhower. I beg your pardon. So wait, are you related to whomever after whom the road is named?
My dad was, yes. I mean, it was many generations ago, but
Okay, so I've been mispronouncing it this whole time, and I felt that might be the case, and I am so upset to hear that now.
Well, don't be upset, because actually the New York Times did a poll about it a couple of years ago. Half the people in the city pronounce it the way we pronounce it, and half the people pronounce it the way you've been pronouncing it. And
Shame.
it turns out actually that the people who pronounce it the way we don't pronounce it are much better educated. So I think you probably got,
except on this one subject.
you learned with phonetics, and it's a Dutch word, but it's
Well, I appreciate your good faith. So, okay, so you are originally, so obviously in the questionnaire we talked about your room in Louisiana.
Arkansas.
But you're originally
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah.
I thought
the house was designed by an architect from Baton Rouge, and my mom had brought all the bricks and timbers and stuff up, floated them up the Mississippi River from New Orleans. But no, we were in Arkansas.
Okay, good to know. Maybe I'm not as hooked on phonics as I think. I like blew through that.
You've got phonetics, but not geography.
Right, definitely. So you are, as everybody who's watching this knows, and if they don't, they should, this extraordinary entrepreneur who does these fantasies. I don't even want to call them parties, because they are more fun and fabulous and fantastical than I think you want to say is a party. But I also got the sense, that you take all comers, you do projects of all sizes, but you do these bonanzas.
Well, we do big and small. Big is bigger.
It's so cool. And the name of your book is one of my favorite things on earth. And I think you had a T-shirt with it on once.
Probably. I mean, we make T-shirts often for events, and it's.
Okay. I need a T-shirt of your book title,
okay.
Which is Born to Party, Forced to Work. How did you get into this business?
Phone.
There's so much overlap with what I do, and then so much different.
Hang on, I'm just going to get this little table. I don't have it.
A stand?
I don't have a stand here. I left it. I got into this business probably a little bit the way you got into your business, which was sort of part nature and part nurture, and part probably you didn't have any other choice.
No. My older sister has nothing to do with it, so we were allowed to flirt with other lives.
Well, I would say I didn't have any other choice because I had no other marketable skills. So and I tried other things. Where I grew up in Arkansas was a very remote, rural part of the state, and we were responsible for every aspect of the experience of someone when they had come to visit us. And, you know, if you'd gotten to us, you'd come very far. And so we were grateful, and we wanted to show it by entertaining well.
Yeah.
It was partly also out of necessity, because there were no restaurants, there was no movie theater, there was no opera, you know. I mean, it was, we were at the end of a road. So so this was kind of very much a part of the culture in my family. And my great-grandmother and my grandmother and my grandfather had started a hotel called Red Apple Inn, which was sort of an award-winning place people would go in Arkansas. Great food. And, you know, it sort of was the nature. I left to go to boarding school when I was 13, and then I went to college up north. And
Yale.
Yale.
I mean, I'm very impressed by that. I'm sorry. I have to announce it loudly.
Oh, thank you. So when I got out of school, I went to the State Department. That was my first job.
I was so surprised to read that. That's, yeah. But in a way, it doesn't not make sense.
I eventually got posted to the embassy to France, and so I was living in Paris. I was actually living at the embassy, and
how gorgeous is that building?
I mean, it's one of our great embassies, and one of the great in Paris. And I was in the protocol office. So that's the office that deals with all of the entertaining and all the guests. And so I sort of was put into this job of being a party planner to the American ambassador in Paris.
And to one of the greatest hostesses on earth.
Yeah, I mean, she that was Pamela Harriman. So she was amazing. Oh, by the way, you know, Mark Hampton did the apartment. And
I was there to hang the pictures with him.
Oh, really?
And I wasn't there because I was good at hanging pictures. He happened to be hanging pictures. It dovetailed with like, what year was this?
I was there 95 and 96.
Okay, so I probably had just graduated from college. So this would have been, I graduated in 93. So it was somewhere after that. And yeah, I was there. I was at the Bristol. He was staying at the embassy, and I was watching painters drag wax down the paint to create that effect in that green room and hang the elles. And yeah, it was like an amazing moment to get to see.
That was she was a very good ambassador. The French loved her. She had lived in Paris for 10 or 12 years.
Right. Beautifully, right?
She spoke the language fluently. It was not beautiful. She didn't speak it beautifully. She had an overwhelmingly English schoolgirl accent, but it was very disarming with the French, because, you know, they're so sensitive about the language. Yeah. And she sounded so bad that they would think, oh, she can't speak it. I mean, you know, that she's not nearly as fluent as she actually was. And, you know, you could watch the looks on the faces of some of these French ministers while she was talking to them. And first of all, she cast her spell that she always cast.
Yeah.
As the conversation in French went from what the hors d'oeuvres were to what was going on in
politically,
you know, talking about Racine, and they would sort of totally fall for her. She, you know, there were so many great things going on in Paris then, but she had an incredible system that made her super effective, which was that she had these index cards with the names of every person she'd ever met. So maybe it was 13 or 14,000 of them. And they were in a room. It was called the card room at the embassy. It's like, I mean, it had been a supply closet. She had turned it into the card room. And my job would be the night before.
This is a little Devil Wears Prada, right? This moment. Except without the coldness, you know.
She invented it. Okay. Yeah. So we would lay out the cards. She would study the cards, and then that, prepared her for everything that was going to happen the next day. And then at the end of the night, my job, there were several of us, but our jobs together were to write down the notes,
Right.
and of the interactions. And so what it did is it allowed her to create a feeling of welcome and appreciation in the people she was interacting with, so that they felt like they were important to her.
Yeah.
And it was important to her that they feel important to her.
And so this is like a wonderful underscoring of how you were raised. It's like the same messaging everywhere you look. You're getting the same information.
That's correct. Then I went to LA, where I got totally different information, because I went out to LA to be a movie star. And
I would go see a movie with you in it.
well, thanks. I was in
Based on your appearance.
I was in but I didn't.
Like job one.
So of course, what it meant is that I ended up as a waiter.
Yeah.
I worked at a place called the Bombay Cafe. It was in the second floor of a strip mall at the corner of Pico and B.
I mean, what did that application look like when you were applying to be a waiter and you're like, hey, I ran the Office of Protocol for the American Ambassador in Paris?
I didn't say that, really. It was sort of, no, I don't know. I'd been in an event with the guy.
Wait, what did you study at Yale, by the way?
European history.
Okay, so go on.
So then I ended up sort of moving.
By the way, you are the Dos Equis man. Just to make that clear, you are the most interesting man in the world.
You're going to get a lot of interview subjects for your series if you're this.
No, because I will constantly refer back to you, the most interesting man in the world. Only women will allow me to interview them from now on. Okay, so you did not mention any of your
I wasn't. I mean, I was a complete failure to launch as an actor. I started doing sets, and so I was working in set design, and kind of, if you think about it,
how did that happen?
Well, I got a job in the art department. I mean, just as the low
studio
at Paramount, yeah, and it was a $5 an hour job, and and they had labor trouble with the set designers. Maybe the second week that I was on the job, and so it was kind of an all hands on deck. Are you hearing the sound out here?
I am, and I'm wondering if at some point it'll pass me and I'll be able to figure out where you are.
Let's see. I doubt you're as far downtown as I am.
No, I am definitely not.
Oh, there it goes. It's leaving. It was so it
was all hands on deck.
All hands on deck. So all of us got basically huge promotions, and I became a set dresser for a series, and this was Star Trek, Deep Space Nine.
You really are the most interesting person.
And I'm sort of a nerd, like science fiction nerd. I loved that.
Yeah, I saw you had your comic books up in the attic, as well as the comic books that your mother helped assemble for your bookcases, which I love. Yeah. I would read comic books that I got at, not fairs, down market. I can't think of the, whatever. And they were like Nurses in Love. There's a DC comic series that was all romance and like women in the typing pool. So I like that you were
like pulp comic books. It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I've never seen them since, but Star Trek is, I feel, laudable.
Well, we ended up. What I do now is basically protocol, set design, waiting tables, mm-hmm. and just a little bit of acting. So that was
grad school for what you were going to do.
Yeah, with no I going to get into it. I mean, it really was. Yeah. I'm quite lost in my 20s.
That's a wonderful thing to hear, given how far you've come.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Brown.
Okay.
And I was working for my father, and then just went and worked for him after. It's called low-hanging fruit.
Mm.
It's not your searching and development.
What was the
So,
application process for that job?
what?
What was the application process for you to get the job working?
Nagging and or getting into trouble and him wanting me to be where he could see me, maybe. I don't know.
And you can always threaten to, live a life of, yeah, exactly.
Of ugliness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at what point, I mean, were you there for the whole run of Star Trek?
No.
I mean, I don't even know how long that one ran. That was the one with...
Star Trek there were theme parks, there's a show, there were 3 series going on. Next Generation was still going on, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. And I was, as a set dresser, the set dressing is basically everything that's on the set that can be moved but isn't. So if something can be moved and is, it's prop.
Uh-huh.
If it can't be moved, it's set. And if it can be moved but isn't moved by an actor, then it's dressing. So that was what I would do. And so I would, there was like a pharmacy on the space station, and I would do all the medicines in the cabinets, make the little, in the grocery store, I stocked all the shelves. I would do the bric-a-brac.
Yeah.
And, hang curtains sometimes or whatever it was. It was just
space curtains.
Loving at home, very crafty, but using a lot of hot glue gun and acrylic. And it was a time, Star Trek was having kind of this renaissance at the time. And there is a very devoted community of people who have a really deep appreciation for Star Trek.
Yeah.
And everyone else working in that department I would put in that category. I was not that, but I appreciated it and liked it. But our little side hustle, we were all paid so badly. Our little side hustle was we would make phasers, or they have a thing called a tricorder on Star Trek that they use it to read the pulse and the situation, some kind of scanner. We could make things like this. I mean, this was our job to make them, but we'd make extra ones, and then we would all pitch in, pool our money, buy a plane ticket for someone in the office to go to a Star Trek convention. And there was a Star Trek convention somewhere in the world, basically every weekend. So a phaser, you could get $1,500 for it. So, a tricorder was probably $500. And we would make all these. I mean, it was a complete theft of intellectual property. But it's how we subsidized ourselves.
So you're learning how to make things proper to the theme. You're learning how to make things on the fly and fast with deadlines that cannot move.
That's true.
And you're sort of doing a goodie bag of phasers and tricorders. So yeah, it's interesting how you were still, whether you knew it or not, equipping your toolbox for what was to come.
That's what we're always doing, right? I mean,
you hope so. Sometimes
you're always, if you're open to your experiences, you're going to take something from them, and then you're going to bring that into whatever it is that you're doing next, I think, right?
Yeah. In the best case scenario, I once interviewed somebody for this, and she said, she was a journalist, and she said, I actually think it's a thing that has nothing to do with your job that you're good at, that's your superpower in any given profession. And I thought that was a wonderful way to see it, because she was using her journalism to, for research and also for storytelling.
Right.
So when do you leave, and where do you go?
When do I leave?
Star Trek.
Oh, so I started working for a film producer. I was doing creative. I was a creative executive, which is a funny job in Hollywood that is neither creative nor executive. Trips. And, you know, you try to attach talent to them, and then you try to get somebody to pay for them to get made into movies. And I ended up, I was doing this, and I was...
Is this casting?
No, it's not the casting. It's called development. I mean, you're working with, you need to attach talent to get financial interest. So you've got to get, you know, well-known celebrity, somebody to be the director, to be the actors. You need a good director, and then you take it as a package to a studio or an independent production company. They will finance it. So I was doing this. I had a great boss who I adored, but I did not like this process, or this, I don't know, it was sort of a strange hustle to me. You know, it was a lot of, we'll get so-and-so interested in it, but don't tell them that they've got it, because we really want so-and-so, and actually the better person is, you know, and it was this sort of, there's a lot of that. I had a weekend where I had 10 scripts to read, which is a lot. And it was Sunday, and I hadn't read any yet. And you really, I mean, you can't do 10 in one day, no matter what. And I was talking to my mom, and my mom had just recovered from a pretty rough bout of cancer, in which she was not, I mean, she always knew she was going to survive. The doctors did not think she was going to survive. So she had this sort of new lease on life, in a way. And I was sort of, Mom, I'm tired of this. You know, what am I going to do? And she said, well, what would you have done this weekend if you could have done anything you wanted? And I said, I would have thrown a party. And she said, well, let's go get paid to throw parties. Let's do it.
Oh, amazing. And what an amazing parent.
She wanted, sorry?
What an amazing parent and woman, full stop.
Well, she's great. I mean, my favorite person in the world. She was, she'd been a mom. And now at that point, my sister was out of school. You know, it was empty nest, and she was newly healthy and wanted to do something. And, you know, we just, by the grace of God, a friend called. I think actually your father did some work for, it was Marina Rust. And she was getting married, and it was in 3 weeks, and it was a scramble, and she needed some help, and we went and did it, and it worked, and we had fun doing it.
Yeah. And
then it was sort of word of mouth.
And where was that? Where did you get married?
She got married in Dark Harbor.
Of course. Okay, yeah. So you had to assemble this in 3 weeks to assemble something not where you were living. Did you, when you left your job at Paramount, did you move, or were you still based in California?
Oh no, yeah, I moved quite a bit when I was there, but I didn't move. I didn't leave LA.
That was still your base. I mean, that is kind of crazy. How did you manage to do that? I mean, you just were like, I'm going to have fun. It'll take what it takes.
Yeah, basically. You know, my best friend, my oldest friend, is this girl, Celery Kimball, who I think you know. Yeah. You should get her on here.
Good. I will. I've covered her before, but I haven't gotten alive with her, but I have to do it.
She came up and met me. We didn't know to even ask to have a generator so that we could have lights, and so that we could work at night. I mean, we knew we were going to have them. We knew we were going to have one party. We did not even realize. So we pulled a truck into the tent. We had said, let's do a fabric ceiling in a tent. I had never thought about how to do a fabric ceiling in the tent. And we're sitting there trying to figure out how we're going to do this. We ended up getting a grommet gun. We had this incredible Schumacher fabric called Mountain Home. It was a big ticking stripe. We used that grommet gun to put grommets in that thing, and we hung the ceiling of that tent like you'd hang a shower curtain, and then stapled the bottom edge of it against the walls. Yeah. We stuck in the tent.
Just you and she. Who's here? Who's at this?
It was the two of us, and maybe we had recruited some a couple of people who worked at the school on Islesboro, which is, you know, population 500. So the whole island turned out to help. I mean, everyone on that island adores Marina. Yeah. but what we sort of, we sort of had these headaches, and we realized, oh my God, we've had this pickup truck in this tent
Oh
right
my God, I thought you were going to say
along
you.
with it, so we could have the headlights on, and we were putting ourselves down with carbon monoxide poisoning while we were putting that ceiling up. We laugh about that.
Oh my God.
But we had so many adventures that weekend. It was an island, so people couldn't get. You weren't worried about anything happening to people really, and somebody's car got lost, and people were staying in the wrong houses, and it was.
And so you were not just the party planner. You were the wedding, everything wedding planning. You were putting people in houses and
The job. That's the job. That's
just
that's
whatever it takes.
part of the guest experience.
Yeah. Which is another thing. I'm obviously reading your words about, your approach to these events. It's just the experience, and which makes perfect sense. But obviously, from my vantage point, first things first is what you look at. But of course, what I do is, maybe I should be looking at it that way first. Always, it is the experience.
Well, I think that what you look at is, it's obviously the strongest of the five senses in terms of how we perceive the world around us. But, sometimes the sense that you aren't aware is influencing you actually
Yeah.
the most. And I'm always thinking about smell. Obviously with food, we're thinking about taste, but I think smell is so important. And, we always are doing something with, if I'm working on a holiday party, we may not be serving hot cider, but boy, I'm going to have a couple of pots of it going on, so that the place smells like that.
It's like that real estate thing about baking cookies for the smell.
Exactly.
I love that. So how do you feel about the impermanence of it? Because that is, the things that you have produced are extraordinary. Is there any smidgen of regret when it comes down and it's over?
No, I think that
Built.
I'm so happy that actually, I think about what you guys do, and you're building an environment that someone might live in for 10, 20 years, the rest of their with their family, and they've got a lot of time to find something wrong, or there's a lot of time for something to break and need to get fixed. What we're doing, and you're probably working with them for a year or two leading up to the move in. With us, we're probably working with someone for 6 months, and it's less and less. When 20 years ago, we would work on a party for a year and a half. Nobody thinks that far ahead anymore. But we would, we do our thing, and it's all sort of zip ties and staple guns and Scotch tape and throwing the whole thing together. It's so ephemeral. It lasts for 5 or 6 hours, and really, the fact is that's about all it could last, because if it stayed there much longer, it would start to fall apart. And, with the Three Little Pigs, you're building the stone house, and I'm building the house made out of hay. And so it's all about that intensity of the experience, and then about it disappearing and going away. And I guess I like that part of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking behind you, and I'm assuming that this is your home, and it's beautiful. Where's your center of gravity aesthetically for your house? And do you ever bump into it at your parties?
Well, I can tell you that probably half the things in this house have been used at an event, came from an event, will go to an event. So of course. I mean, it's creating space. That's going to carry over. The tree behind me that looks like a willow tree. It's
I thought that was wallpaper. Got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
here. I'm getting up.
Yeah.
So you've got this tree was at a
It's beautiful.
it was at an event, and it's a real live mountain laurel trunk. Here's another one.
Uh-huh.
And these are just fake weeping willow leaves. And there's a chandelier back there that hung at a party at the Whitney. And you were asking me something, and I totally forgot.
Well, it's an annoying question because it's impossible to answer because you've done so many things. But I was asking you if where's your center of gravity for your own aesthetic to live in, and does that bump into your work? And obviously, insofar as your house has become a prop house for your parties, yes. And I don't even know if I should call them parties. They're really events or happenings. But there's like how would you divide them?
Well, I think as far as decorating goes, for me, this place is a mess, but it's filled with things that
Doesn't look like one.
I like, or I had something about them resonated. And I think what you end up when somebody builds an art collection, and they're buying out of a passion. That passion, the collection starts to become almost a series of points of light or stars in the sky that if you drew the lines connecting them, you would end up with a constellation, and the figure of the constellation would be the story of what that person's piece.
First, yeah.
And so I think that's what happens. I don't know where does your inspiration, or how does it express itself?
That's tough because I've been surrounded by shooter outers of style forever, whether they be decorators or curators or design journalists or painters or whatever. But when I entertain, like I'd watch my parents entertain, and I love setting a pretty table, but I love the notion, the exuberance of a party, and I don't think it's something everyone can do. I mean, you can always, you can get better, but I do think there's a serious gift to it, and just because you have good taste doesn't mean you can do it.
Well, I think hospitality, it is really the expression of love. It really is an expression of caring. And it is something that it's almost a sacrament, I think. Every culture on this planet, independently of each other, at some point evoked the divine in order to ratify or encourage behavior that was good for the community, mm-hmm. and to sort of cast out or prescribe behavior that was bad for the community. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. But
it's a time to dance.
And hospitality was one of those, because number one, as you know, we changed from hunter-gatherers to people who stayed in one place and actually learned agriculture, and we could sustain ourselves in one location. You had to wonder about and worry about who was over the horizon, and if they came, what were they going to say? What were they going to do? Could they be friendly, or would they rape and pillage? Mm-hmm. And so hospitality, customs around hospitality were developed in order to create a safe,
diplomacy,
a safe zone, a set of rituals that codified and introduced safety in how strangers would interact with each other. Mm-hmm. And so then they were further developed to take care of travelers. People started traveling, and you didn't have refrigeration, so you couldn't take your food with you. There were no restaurants, so you really depended literally on the kindness of strangers. So this idea of how a guest should be treated is something that gets religious ratification in every culture. I mean, the Zeus, king of the gods in Greece, he's also the god of hospitality. And Hermes, the messenger god, he's the god of guests. In our Christian tradition, the foundational story of Christianity is a couple who don't receive good hospitality. They show up in a town and all the doors are closed to them. They're there for the census. Census, and the son of God and man is born in a stable, and that's
every fairy tale since, and every
fairy tale,
superhero saga, every story.
Sleeping Beauty, the poor Maleficent, she was left off the list. She wasn't invited to the party.
Totally.
So.
Somebody's saying Abraham welcomed all to his tent.
That's right.
So as so many things do in our culture, you know, there is this very practical reason for it that is over time almost baked into our DNA. And because it becomes so much a part of our lives, we can lose sight of those antecedents, right? Yeah. So what do you, I mean,
like the Constitution,
so
Tony
so many things. So for sure, it is still to express joy and to celebrate and to be grateful and to welcome people in and express love. What else do you think parties, maybe right this moment? I mean, this is such an interesting moment because like we're starting to get to see each other, but we're not at full throttle. I mean, the party or the event or the gathering, whatever you want to talk, however you want to describe it, is perhaps now more momentous than ever before in recent history.
It is so cool right now. New York is on fire. It is so wonderful. I've been in Los Angeles. We did a wedding in Savannah a couple of weeks ago. We did a wedding in Key Largo. I was in Charleston last night. Everybody is happy,
chomping at the bit
to come out of this, but I will say New York in particular is just so sexy and cool and fun and hot right now. And
I did just read that New York Magazine article about sex parties have apparently been a huge thing, are a huge thing, and have been a huge thing during COVID. I was like, what? Listen,
that writer should know some gay people. The gays in sex party. We've been doing that for a long time. Not me.
Yeah, it was a good read. I recommend it.
You know, I think what's happening now, as you say, things are getting back, but they haven't gotten back, meaning you don't have to go to a party at a store anymore.
Oh, yeah.
There are no parties to go to some party thing, opening of a, shoe store. And so it's people have time to do the things they want to do, be with the people they want to be with, and they're doing it. And it's wonderful to see people when social obligation has not returned to it's not even really obligation. It's people's perception of their obligation, the sort of overbooking of themselves. And
especially in New York.
Especially in New York, filling up your calendar with all kinds of stuff that's going to lead to you spending time with people that you don't actually really care about that much. And who don't maybe care about you that much, but it sort of fills your calendar. Right now, people are hanging out with who they want to hang out with. They're having so much fun, and it's a great time to throw a party.
Yeah. How many, I don't even know if you can answer this, how many parties or events do you work on in a year?
Well,
you should go down to a month. How many in a month?
It's so different from month to month, to be honest, because there's sort of ebbs and flows in the
a different scale.
Yeah, that's right. We do, I'd say, between 120 and 180 events a year. That was pre-COVID. So obviously, we were effectively actually illegal in New York. Until May 19th of this year, I was literally against the law. But we were able to
Had you done something, which I'm sure you didn't?
I'm sorry?
I said, had you done something?
Well, we did. We were able to do stuff in other places, which it was nice to be working, but it was also nice to have a little yeah, a little downtime.
Yeah.
I'm working on my next book. Did you have my book, Born to Party, Forced to Work?
I do not have your book.
Oh, well, I'll sign one for you.
Okay, but I mean, I'll get it. You can come over here and sign it.
That book is fun for me because I got to recount a lot of the experiences from doing this for 20 years, and including some disasters and things that we got to learn from. And it's maybe there's some things that somebody can see that I did wrong that they don't have to do themselves, or they can just laugh.
Does it also have for the very green some things that we all should keep in mind? I hesitate to say a tip, but I do remember when I was having my wedding in Greece, and I couldn't seem to express what flowers I wanted, so I went to Rennie, and he helped me do a bouquet that I wanted, and then he wrote down what was in it and showed, we sent the photos so that they could be reproduced. And he was like, listen, Alexa, far more important than the flowers is the lighting. And I was like, what? You would say that? And he's like, I would. So do you have gems, pearls in the book that we can all learn from?
With every chapter, we have a section at the end that is basically it's exactly kind of what you're talking about, and
covenants to expand your.
Well, it's a little chapter about lighting, or a little chapter about. So to me, the essentials of a party. Well, good guess. You need a host or hostess who is smiling and having fun, because at the end of the day, your friends are there because they love you and they want to see you happy. So the hostess who's stressing out about
radiating stress is
no, fun, and what that means for a host or hostess is prepare. So you're not behind the bar making drinks all night, or you're not in the kitchen dealing with the oven, or putting your head in the oven to try to get a souffle out. Serve things that you can prepare ahead of time, or get some help. I think that one thing that sort of guides us, I try with every party to let it unfold a little bit like a play or an opera. And so scene to scene to act, to scene to act. And
you said something like every 30 minutes, 35
20-minute rule. That's our 20. We have the 20-minute rule. Something has to change every 20 minutes, and you got to change the lighting, or you've got to change the room, or the room itself. The room has to change, or you have to move. Serve Jello shots. Bring in the Cirque du Soleil strippers. It is. It could be the baked Alaska coming in with fire, or the suckling pig that you're going to serve, being paraded through the room. It could be music, a music change, or, unveiling a performer or an artist. But I think people's attention spans, obviously, the science, the data backs this up, are shrinking. Yeah. We're so busy. And I think that, we don't, it's stimulation, and it's nice to surprise people.
Wait, I had a question that I wanted to ask you. I have many. So my question was, you grew up, obviously, as did I, in a certain moment of time where entertaining was still rabid. My parents went out to dinner every night of the week, and there weren't shoe store openings quite yet. Like it was dinner parties and maybe big thingies. And then, obviously, life changed, people changed, the way we live changed. And then people are shy with showing how much they make, or get it, there's an undergroundness to a lot of entertaining now. And then I'm sure it was compounded by the economic crisis in 2008. So how did that manifest, or how does it manifest in, and I'm sure COVID has piled that on too, like, is there
I'm sorry.
subterranean entertaining? Like, what's the story? Because you're very, your parties are incredible, very well known.
Well, the most,
Do you have to hide it?
I think some of the most fabulous parties that we've done are not well known at all.
Yeah, because in the 80s, people got, or 90s even, they got slammed
Yeah.
for the kind of Paris is Burning vibe.
I think people throw parties for a lot of reasons, to celebrate milestones in their lives or the lives of the people they love or their families. They throw parties for messaging reasons. I mean, companies, brands, whatever. But nobody throws a party to make other people feel small or feel bad. And I think that in times of, particularly widespread pain, people are afraid to look, they don't want to look like an asshole for having a party. I will say, I've existed on both sides of that equation. The party that somebody decides not to throw because there are people in line at the soup kitchen means that the waiters who would have made
aren't employed.
$250, $300 that night, it means that the artisans and the florists and the people who build the stage or paint the fabric or whatever, it means that those people are not working. And so I understand the very natural human desire to not want to show off or not want to, but at the same time.
Well, no, and I think there's plenty of wanting to show off, but it's how to approach it. Like, and I think you're giving us the perfect.
Well, I mean, I just remember when in 2008, 2009, which was traumatic for, generationally, I think I'd never seen anything like that in my life.
Yeah, nor had I.
And I remember the president, made some sort of semi-offhand comment about, people shouldn't be having, big conventions out in Las Vegas or something. Well, 3 months later, 45,000 waiters in Las Vegas. 45,000 waiters in Las Vegas have been laid off. And so there are consequences to these things. I think that it hurts me when people don't give parties. I mean, it hurts my business. That's fine. I can live with it.
Right.
But it makes me sad sometimes when, some of the people the freelancers, the people who make their living doing.
Yeah. And obviously, like, I have those same, there are tons of echoes of that in our business as well.
Yeah.
But it's easier for people to shut the door.
Yeah.
So they don't need to invite people into their house to see their art or see how glam they do or don't live, and they can be more private. What are some of your favorite parties? And do you love it as much as ever?
I love it.
Still the young man who called his mother and was like, I wish I were giving a party?
I love it. I still do it with my mother. She's in Toronto right now, running a load-in for a party on Saturday night. And my sister's with her. My sister came and joined us. And so it is so nice to work with someone, and to work with someone you love, seeing them do something that they love and that they are superbly good at. So it's like getting to see, your sister or your mom perform on stage at La Scala, or you've got your sibling's a soccer player and you're getting to see them in the World Cup, and that's
triumphant.
The pleasure of that is so nice in life, and I don't think that anything's more important. You also don't have to watch your back with your family. You hire each other, figure out how to make it work. No, I still love it. I mean, I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and write down stuff for parties. So what are some of the
What are some of your favorite epic or not epic events that you've done?
Well, I think my favorite event that I ever did was my sister's wedding, which was in Charleston, which was not our town, but she was marrying somebody and they were living there, and they were going to build their life there. So it sort of seemed like a fun place to have the wedding. Besides, on the farm in Arkansas, there was no hotel, so we
What happened to Red Apple Inn?
it wouldn't have worked. The Red Apple Inn, it was 2.5 hours away from where we had the wedding. So we were in Charleston, and Mimi just sort of said to Mom and me, "Go." We're like, "You guys do it. I don't want to." And we did, and we had so much fun. It was under these 300-year-old live oak trees. The ceremony. There was an alligator that kept coming out of this marsh near where
Every 20 minutes.
setting it up, and we could not figure out how to make sure that this alligator wasn't going to come in, and so we ended up putting speakers out there and playing Motown music on the edge of the water, so this alligator never came out on our side of the marsh. My mother moved the wedding 10 days before. She decided she wanted a different location. And we're always trying to make it better. And she decided that she had a way to make it better. So
You didn't have a heart attack. You were cool with this.
we were cool with it. Our trucks had left the warehouse in New York, and we did not have a location to tell them to come to when they arrived in Charleston. So we ended up, my sister and her fiance, my mom said she wanted to do this in a field. And so Mimi and Ham ended up going down a dirt road, and they...
Was this for the ceremony only?
No, the ceremony was at a friend's place.
Okay, so you're still blasting Motown at alligators, but you've left.
So this is 10 days before, so we haven't. Yes.
Oh, you haven't gotten to the alligator place.
No, and we've got the music going for the alligators. Yes, alligators. So so they end up going down this dirt road, and this wonderful woman in her 80s. There's a little cabin. There's a great tobacco field, and so they go and knock on the door, and she said, "Well, do you want a Coca-Cola?" And they said, "Well, actually, we need a place to have our wedding reception." And she said, how long have you guys been engaged? How many people do you have coming? She asked them sort of a series of questions, and they tell her, and they were having 400 people. They had been engaged at that point for 2.5 years. And the woman said, I was engaged to my husband, who I was married to for 65 years before he passed away. I was engaged to him for 2.5 years, and we had 400 people at our wedding. And if you want to have your wedding on my tobacco field, go for it. And so here was 10 days before. We're like, okay, calling the tent company. Here's where we're going to set, let's meet here. We're going to set the tent up in the field. And it was really fun.
God wanted you to be.
Sorry?
God wanted you in this profession. Like, if that's any indication.
I think half of what we do, and I think it's probably the same for interior design, there's the doing it, and then there's the process of engaging with the client. And I like both. I mean, my passion is the doing it. And I think that, so, working on my sister's wedding or working on one of my parties or or my parents, it's really nice because I get to focus on that half of it that is really my passion. And I think that there are a lot of people who get into this business because there are no barriers to entry, right? I mean, it's purely, anyone can sort of hang up a sign and say,
yeah, but it's logistical.
a decorator or a party planner. I think that there are a lot of people who get into this business who want to be their clients, and want to sort of live like our clients do. And I don't want that. I've given parties. I've given great parties. I'm going to give more great parties. I don't need to get my party out when I'm working for someone. I want to get their party out, and I want to draw them out. I feel like it's my job is to give perfect form to their vision of how they want to express themselves through the language of hospitality. And when I say give perfect form, it's to fill in the blanks. And maybe, I mean, I'll come with tons of ideas. Yeah. I'll help them refine their ideas. And so, but the obverse side of that is that it's sometimes it's fun to just be me and have a party that
oh, I'm sure
no one's going to tell me no.
Yeah.
When I have some.
Does this mean that you don't party at the parties you throw?
Oh no.
You have to stay.
No, we're in service. This this is not a.
Yeah. Do not make no mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just so impressed. I can't even imagine the somersaults and the craziness of getting everything. Well, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you?
I would say that's like picking a favorite child. But
I
will say
something caught fire.
Well, we set a fire once at 740 Park. I mean, it wasn't firing was bad, but no, I would say top 5 ever. We had loaded an 18-wheeler to go to a wedding in Cincinnati, and in that 18-wheeler was every single thing that we were doing. The ceilings of the tents, the staging, the flowers were in refrigerators on this truck, and the crew. It was probably 10 o'clock at night, the night before the truck was going to leave. They had just finished. They broke for dinner. They put a padlock on the back of the truck, but didn't close it. And we saw all this on the security camera later. Some guys pulled into the parking lot at our warehouse. I mean, this was random. They drove through a gate that was open and, came in. And they stole the truck. So this is a Wednesday night, and the wedding is on Saturday. And and the bride's veil was on the truck. So I am calling and waking up Vera Wang in the middle of the night out east.
Back to 740. No, out east. Okay.
Chris is in to redo this thing. We're in the fabric district buying thousands of yards of.
Called the bride, or
God!
You don't want to freak her out.
How can I call the bride? I can't call.
I just don't know. I don't know.
No, I just have to. I have to fix it. No, that's. Yeah, no. I
get it. I just wanted to make sure.
Well, so we pretty much, I would say by the end of the day, we've lost a very precious day of setup time, but we've replaced, I'd say, substantially everything in some way, shape, or form. And, I have some latitude in terms of design. It's not usually so cut.
You don't storyboard it or?
I do.
Okay.
They expect me to kind of, I think, make some changes.
Yeah.
So, I felt great about that. We did get a veil. Oh my God. I mean, it was like 8 women working on this thing all day long. But then at 11 o'clock that night, they found the truck. And it was 3 miles from our warehouse, and everything was in it. They hadn't even opened the unopened,
Joyride?
No, they stole the tires. They had taken the 18-wheeler because they wanted the tires. What probably 60 people had gone through.
I mean, I guess it makes sense. You're not going to like open a refrigerator of flowers and start selling flowers. I don't know.
Nothing in it they could sell, but they didn't even get in it. They didn't care about what was in the truck. They just were going to sell the tires. And I would have bought every single one of those. There were 4 guys in the car. I would have bought every single one of those guys 18 tires.
Yeah.
If I could have, so that they didn't make
Of
us
course.
do what we did that day. And I guess there's a market for rims.
So wait. So let's talk insurance. What happened?
Well, it was a leased truck, and so they had.
What about having to get all of that stuff twice?
Oh no, I mean,
It's just you'll make it up another day.
I don't. No, we'll not. Listen, I run a not-for-profit sometimes, so.
Yeah. Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. Somebody just said they love the story. I hate the story. It makes me ill, but I'm glad it worked out.
And I meant to tell them, of course, after the wedding, what had happened, and I totally forgot to, and I saw the parents, the mom and dad of the bride, at a party a couple of weeks ago, and the mother lost an earring at the party, and so we're all down on our knees with our cell phone flashlights going, and it made me remember this story, and so.
Okay. A few weeks ago, she lost it.
And this wedding was maybe 10 years ago. So I told the mom, and we laughed, and then we got on FaceTime with the daughter who'd gotten who was the one who got married, and she has kids, and we told the kids. I mean, there's some funny.
Yes, somebody's asking a question. I need to ask. So, how much of the original stuff did you use, and how much of the secondary stuff did you use?
We used all of the flowers from both. So those clients basically got
twice flowers.
They always get 2x. I mean, we always do more.
Yeah.
But this was really, we really got.
They were like in the Botanic Garden.
Yeah, and then we, we used the original stuff. I mean, to the extent that we were able with the new stuff to keep it fresh and brand new, not take fabric off the bolt or cut it, we would, we could at some point use it again.
Yeah. Okay, well, that is a terrible, terrible story. And that's just top 5. Okay, are these all in the book, or are these coming in the new book?
That's in the book, and many more. The new book, I've just started. I don't have a title, but I have some thoughts.
Do you think that will come out in 2 years?
I don't know. I mean, if I can get it written in the next couple of months, hopefully it'll come out before the end of the year. Who knows?
Before the end of the next year. Yeah.
Because we're hiring. Events are back, but the team is not. We don't have the same team we had before COVID, and so we need people. And if somebody's watching.
You need full-time people?
Yes, full-time people and freelance people.
And tons of logistics.
Yeah, some people travel in the company, some don't. But
and how big is the company?
We were a little more than 70 before COVID.
Wow. I guess
30-something now. We had a year with essentially 0 events. 20 months, but now we're probably 30 something, and we'll get back to where we were, I think.
For sure. I have so loved this. You are, I'm sure, it's just you're a fun, besides being the most interesting man in the world, just a fun combination of here you are taking a very cerebral, considered approach to something. Rightfully, sure, of course, but to something so playful, and those of us who don't do it, we're not thinking serious thoughts about it. So it's great to hear your serious thoughts about this thing that is so,
This job, not job.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll make sure that people interview for jobs. They will DM you on Instagram, and I will go get your book, and then I will force you to come here and sign it for me.
Love to. I hope you've got tequila.
I do. Casamigos. All right. Lots of love. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you in person.
Same.
Bye.